Hey guys, what is up? And once again, I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So I'm sure it comes as to no surprise that at the current moment in the meta, assassins, especially AD assassins like Zed and Talon, are very popular. So I felt like it would be a pretty good time to make a video talking about Kayle mid. This is the champion that I feel like is slowly rising up in popularity once again. Her win ratio is quite good, and I feel like this is the champion we'll start seeing more often because of the current champions we're seeing very often. Mainly because of her ultimate absolutely negating all form of damage a champion will take. It's a fantastic counter to assassin champions that obviously rely on burst, especially ones that build Duskblade. So throughout this video, we'll talk more about Kayle. I'll give you guys the runes, masteries, items, positives, negatives, tips and tricks, and everything you need to know in order to take her into a game. But first I want to ask you guys a simple question. What champion do you find most difficult to face in the mid lane? Also, please definitely hit that like button if you end up enjoying this video. But let us not waste any more time and get right into the main topic of the video. So why is Kayle mid good? I mean, what about her makes her strong? What makes her the assassin counter? As I mentioned earlier, the main form of counter Kayle brings is her ultimate, offering 2 to 3 seconds of pure invulnerability to any form of champion damage. And assassins, especially within teamfights whose main focus is to jump to the backline, kill a high priority target, so either yourself being the mid laner, your ADC, or any other potential squishy champion you might have on your team, well, Kayle's ultimate will completely nullify that if you time it correctly, and for the most part you will render the assassin useless. So the clip you're watching now and the following clip as well are pretty decent examples also in the laning phase of what you can do whenever facing someone like Zed. Kayle is fantastic at pushing in the wave because of the natural splash damage her E offers her ranged auto attacks. So you push in the wave, you make it hard for the assassin champion to deal with the wave and CSing under tower. They can't really push against you because they simply do not have the capabilities of doing so. And as they're trying to CS under the turret, well, you just go in for those Q auto attacks whenever possible. Also, the clip you guys are watching right now is going to be about a 2-minute clip which really shows the power of Kayle. The first point I have in my list under the positive section is the fact that she scales into late game like a beast. And she's also surprisingly strong at split pushing because of the raw attack speed that she's going to be getting from runes, from masteries, and even from items. So you're able to dish out a lot of damage to the towers, you're able to clear waves very quickly, and you're also going to be noticing that my score only being 1-5-5, not a very good score, but I'm still going to be dishing out some serious damage to the enemy team when they come to stop me in just a few seconds. Granted, the Bard on my team is going to be helping me out quite a bit here. It still shows the power of Kayle as long as you farm well, which it should be very easy to do so thanks to her auto attack and splash damage. Just the overall synergy with your on-hit items and spells, so you have your E giving you on-hit damage, you have your Gwynsu's max stack not only giving you more AoE damage but more on-hit damage, the Nashor's Tooth, and then you have the Lich Bane to give you a little bit of burst damage as you transition into your consistent damage. So she naturally just brings in a lot of hybrid damage towards your team. Then she has a very fantastic passive that shreds magic resistance and armor for her to deal even more damage to the enemy, which will also help her team do more damage to those champions as well. Either way, the main thing you're looking at with Kayle is to scale very well. About 30 minutes into the game, once you get especially your main 2 items being Gwynsu's and Nashor's Tooth, and essentially rendering assassins useless because of your ultimate if you time it correctly within teamfights. And a small kind of bonus thing I like about Kayle a lot is the fact that her W gives a percentage increase in move speed, which later on in the game as you level up the ability is actually quite nice. But the bad things is, well, I mean, she has no hard escapes in her kit, so she for the most part is kind of a sitting duck until you get more move speed from your W. A lot of the times with Kayle, you'll notice you're just simply turning on your E, throwing your Q on your opponent, and just simply auto-attacking them to death and crossing your fingers hoping you have more damage than they do. Her rank 1 ultimate only lasts 2 seconds, so against someone like Zed, it can be a little bit bad since Zed's deathmark lasts 3 seconds. Her laning phase is a little so-so, and it does take a bit of time to get going and really feeling the power spike and the true damage coming out from Kayle, and she doesn't have any hard CC for a mid laner mage or AP type champion. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some quick and easy tips and tricks whenever playing Kayle, as some of these things are very important to keep in mind. A very important thing I want to mention that I feel like some people may not know is whenever you have Kayle's E on, obviously it gives you that nice splash damage on champions, on minions, or whatever. But if your E ability is on and you're attacking the tower, well, it actually will not splash damage around the tower. So if an enemy champion is chilling around their own tower and you're hitting it trying to take it down, don't be scared of getting the tower aggro because of your E abilities splash damage. It will not splash when attacking towers. Following this, whenever you're playing in the laning phase, for the most part, you want to just push in the wave with your E. Again, you have the splash damage. You want to push it in very quickly and make it hard for the enemy to last hit under tower. Your main focus is just getting as much CS as possible for the first 20 or so minutes. You don't have to necessarily flat out dominate your lane. You have a decent power spike once you finish your Nashers, which I'll talk about in a bit, but your big power spike really starts happening when you finish your Nashers and your Gwynsus, and especially with your Lich Bane for that little added burst damage. Also, once you're about 25 or 30 minutes plus into a game, your Q ability ends up being kind of useless in terms of damage. The reason is by then you'll have so much attack speed from your runes, from masteries, and from your items that you'll be attacking so fast, especially if your Gwynsus Rage Blade is at 8 stacks. So by the time you use your animation to throw out your Q, probably you could have done more damage just through auto-attacking a bit more instead. So around that point of the game, your Q is essentially only useful to either put the slow on or to activate your Lich Bane's bonus damage. Whenever you're trying to harass in the lane or trying to gap close with someone, always remember to use W on yourself for the extra movement. And one of the most important things is not to save your Kayle ultimate until the very last second. Use it when it really matters. A lot of the times that's going to be near the beginning of a teamfight, not near the end. Don't wait till your ally is near death to save them from the last maybe auto attack or two. Use it when the ally is taking the most amount of damage or when they're potentially going to be taking the most amount of damage, even if they're still at full HP. Now before we move right into the builds, let's quickly talk about the abilities to level and the summoner spells to take. Level 1, you almost always want to start with your E unless you get a really nice pick in the level 1 fight with the 5v5 scenario with the slow, but usually E. Level 2, put a point into that Q. Level 3, another point into E. Then at level 4, put a point into your W. And then from then on forth, you always want to prioritize your E ability first to max to rank 5, and then your Q, and then your W, and of course, putting a point into your ultimate whenever you can. In terms of summoner spells, for the most part, Flash Ignite does work quite well. Sometimes you can take Exhaust or even Ghost if you really need to, but I recommend just going a simple Ignite and Flash. However, if you're playing Kayle in the mid lane versus a Twisted Fate, or you're playing Kayle in the top lane, sometimes Teleport can be a good summoner spell. But next, let's finally talk about what items you should be getting on Kayle, including the runes and the masteries. So when you're starting off the game, for the most part, you probably want to go Doran's Ring and a few potions. And the core items you should almost always be getting without any exception whatsoever are your Nashor's Tooth and your Gwynsus Rage Blade. These items are what makes Kayle, well, Kayle. I mean, it gives her attack speed, it gives her a nice mix of damage, it gives her on-hit damage as well that she works very well with. And these items are what makes Kayle able to just turn on the E ability, stand in one spot, and whack your opponent to death. In terms of boots, I usually recommend the Zerker boots because attack speed on her is just a brilliant stat. However, you can also go for the Lucidity boots if you're just keen on having 40% cooldown reduction. Now, items to choose from. You can go any of these items because all of them will work quite well, but for the most part, I highly recommend going Lich Bane, Deathcap, and Void Staff. The one thing I would substitute out for other items is gonna be the Death Cap. So maybe if you need a Zhonya's, maybe if they have a ridiculous amount of magic damage Abyssal Scepter, or if they have a lot of CC and then a lot of burst on top of it. The Mercurial Scimitar can be fantastic because you can't use your ultimate if you are locked down, so you have a chance to get bursted down before you can even do anything. So having Mercurial Scimitar to take off the CC and then use your ultimate can be a lifesaver and even a game saver. At the bottom you can see an example build path, and this is how it should look like for the most part in almost any game you play. You want to get the attack speed portion of the Nashor's Tooth first. Finish off the Nashor's Tooth, get your Zerker boots, start working towards the Rage Blade by getting the pickaxe first, and then start going towards the Lich Bane with of course getting the Sheen as your first item. So the runes and the masteries. Let's first talk about the masteries. 18, 12, 0 is how it should look like. Fervor of Battle without question is the best keystone for Kayle because again, all you care about is on-hit damage, and this one is essentially on-hit damage. On top of Fervor of Battle getting buffed a few patches ago to the point where it really is a good keystone once again. For the runes, there are two major variations and a few smaller ones you can do as well. So you'll always want to have attack speed reds and flat armor yellows, unless you're facing an AP mid laner to which you can have HP per level yellows. In this example, I have MR per level blues and I have flat AP quints. points. Now this one isn't necessarily that bad, but I don't think this is the best option. So we're gonna switch things up a little bit and take a look at this rune page instead. Again, the other one is an option that you can definitely do if you think it's better, but I recommend this one instead. The difference here is instead of flat AP quints, I have attack speed quints. Again, attack speed is probably the best stat on Kayle next to on hit type damage. So the more of it you have, the better you'll feel about 20 to 30 plus minutes into the game. For the blues, you can either go MR per level blues, flat MR blues. You can get a bit of CDR per level blues, so you get 10% to hit 40% with your Gnasher's Tooth and Lichbane, and then add a couple of MR blues in there to fill up the rest of the slots. But I feel like that's probably most of the information you need to know in order to get into a game and start playing Kayle and countering those assassins you probably hate facing. So as usual, let's end off the video with my final rating of Kayle mid. I'll be giving her a very respectable 7 out of 10. She's definitely a strong champion and she easily has her bonuses into picking her. Her ultimate is essentially made to counter burst type damage coming out from assassins. She works and synergizes very well with on-hit items and the attack speed stats. She scales well, it's easy to CS with her. The natural AoE damage she gets from her E mixed with Gwinsu's feels so nice to attack with. And for the most part, she truly is a strong champion, but again, she does take a little bit of time to get going. She doesn't have any built-in escapes, she doesn't have any hard CC, which most AP mid laners tend to have. The first few levels with Kayle feel a little lackluster. I mean, you're gonna feel very sluggish and slow, but again, it ramps up very quickly. But that is about it for this video, guys. I mean, that is the assassin counter. This is the champion that is made to beat assassins, especially in the meta right now. So I highly recommend trying her out, getting a feel for her, maybe bringing her out into your ranked games if you see an enemy Zed, Fizz, Talon, or whatever. And if you enjoyed the video, guys, definitely hit that like button to show your support. Maybe share this video with your friends, that helps me quite a bit. Subscribe if you haven't, check out my other videos. And here were my favorite 3 comments from the past video where I asked the question, what is your favorite assassin to play? Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I really do hope to see you for the next one as well. Peace.